distinguished guests. Special welcome to Senator Cohen for being here, sir. Thank you. It's also my great pleasure to welcome you all to the first India Today Global Roundtable on the eve of the Indian Prime Minister's visit to the USA. As you've just heard, it adds a new chapter to our signature event, the India Today Conclave, in which we have been doing for the past 13 years. And every March, we have hosted some of the finest and the best of America. Bill Clinton has been there, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Henry Kissinger, James Cameron, and many other luminaries. I'm therefore delighted that we made this small beginning here in America in collaboration with two very distinguished partners, Brookings Institution and the India's leading industry association, Confederation of Indian Industry, CII. I thank you both for your support. We're going to spend the day discussing almost every aspect of the Indo-US relations with leading lights from both countries. There couldn't be a better time. India is on the cusp of great change. After 30 years, we have a single party with an absolute majority and a mandate won on the promise of development. Fortunately, it is headed by a Prime Minister with a clear vision for economic renewal. That too a vision not held hostage to Nehruvian socialism, but a vision of good governance with minimum government. Probably for the first time since independence, there's been a shift to the right in India's mindset. There is hope now that the Modi government will control our overbearing bureaucracy and release the great entrepreneurial energy of our country and get us on the move again. By all counts, it's a daunting task to streamline an economy full of distortion, an economy which has been a victim of the competitive populism that has been practiced by our politicians for many decades. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi is reaching out to the world, as can be seen with his recent engagement with the leaders of China and Japan. In the light of these meetings and his economic vision, his visit to America assumes even greater significance. India-US relations have a long and complex history with many twists and turns. Bring up the subject of India-US relations and there will be as many prescriptions as there are speakers. But everyone is guaranteed to be agreed on one thing. It is a relationship that has consistently failed to realize its potential. India and the US have been variously called estranged democracies, impossible allies, and natural allies, which was coined by our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. President Obama, while addressing the joint session of Parliament, put it as the interaction between the world's oldest democracy and the largest democracy. The truth is, there's always been an element of ambivalence in India's attitude towards America. This was captured by Jairam Ramesh, former Congress Party minister, who also is a speaker at the round table, in his inimitable style in the title of a paper he wrote in 1999. And the title was, Yankee, Go Home But Take Me With You. And any which way, it is a relationship that has been better found its potential when it has been guided by politicians. Their more graceful and indeed gracious touch has been needed to get this exceptional engagement out of the diplomat's dreadful adherence to reciprocity. Bill Clinton saw the just one Dalbert dialogue as a way to rescue ties from clumsy diplomacy, and I quote, "If a relationship can be thrown off balance because of a diplomat's domestic arrangements, then surely that relationship needs work." Ashley Tellis, a very well-known and respected commentator on Indo-US affairs, has recently put it quite bluntly, and I quote, "As things stand, the US-Indian strategic partnership is in a rut." It'll be interesting to see how our American guests at this inaugural India Today Global Roundtable see it, and what they'd recommend DC to do to get the relationship back to a good groove. In fact, most of India's other bilateral relationships have been driven by state-determined strategic requirements. In this regard, the relationship with the US stands apart. In many areas, it has been led by non-government popular energies. And once again, over the course of the day, we would like to hear from our participants on how the non-government stakeholders, businessmen, students, academics, the diaspora, can pull the government back on track. It is ironic that the India-US strategic relationship got serious attention with the last BJP-led government after the 1998 Pokhran test and the resulting sanctions as documented in Strobe Talbot's book. The big idea emerging from those years of initial discourse, initiated by the BJP government, was that India, as a vibrant democracy, wedded to ideals similar to the US, cannot possibly be at odds with the US at all times. Washington understood that there was a need to revisit some of its own strategies that targeted India, particularly the technology control regime. This stunted India's stature and were a roadblock to high technology trade and innovation. This is how the conversation expanded to include nuclear, space, and defense, which led to a framework known as the next step in the strategic partnership in the last days of the Vajpayee government. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh took this forward and concluded the game-changing India-US nuclear deal. Yet the transformation of this great political initiative into robust economic cooperation in these fields was successfully thwarted by naysayers in the systems on both sides. The civil nuclear liability is the best such example. Clearly, the fresh political capital is needed to bridge this yawning gap between potential on the ground and political synergy on the top. That apart, one can still see the challenge and romance if this relationship as mutual respect for each other's exceptionalism. President Obama put it most eloquently and succinctly when he said to India's parliament, and I quote, "Even as we honor the histories which in different times kept us apart, even as we preserve what makes us unique in a globalized world, we can recognize how much we can achieve together." He and Prime Minister Modi have to heed this sentiment. Both India and US have immense soft power, and the exercise of this power is not mediated by governments. That's what makes us exceptional too, two great democracies. Business too needs to chip in to do much more. US was India's largest trading partner for the longest time, a partner with which India enjoyed trade surplus. But the growth in trade between the two countries has slowed to a trickle. China is now India's largest trading partner, overtaking that position from the US as far back as 2007, 2008. America, as you all know, is all about business. So is the main focus of Prime Minister Modi's visit. He wants to attract FDI for his most recent pet project, Make in India. As Infosys founder Narayan Murthy wrote recently, and I quote, "Modi has to make US legislators, civil servants, and corporate leaders feel that India is important, India is predictable, India is desirable, and India is easy to do business with." That's quite a tall order, and it will take more than just words for Prime Minister Modi to do. We also have with us a panel of eminent Indian industrialists to discuss Indian investment potential and also the contentious issue of outsourcing the Bangalore-Buffalo divide. The role of governments need to be focused on setting a conducive regulatory regime, for example, on education and research. Red tape inhibits the setting up of offshore campuses in India, and shrill denunciations of any such plans were made in the name of sovereignty and protecting Indian students. But they ignore the fact that even greater number of Indian students go abroad to college, spending more than $3 billion in the US alone. We have a session on building India's Ivy Leagues today with eminent academics. It is expected that PM Modi and President Obama will discuss the trade facilitation agreement agreed on at Bali last year, which India is said to be blocking. We'll see if they can use this to find a way forward on a measure that really would add to the global common good. We will have later today the world-renowned expert on trade, Professor Jagdish Bhagwati, to talk about this and much more. These are difficult times. The rise of ISIS in the Middle East is causing concern. Afghanistan's future with few American boots on the ground is a big worry for India. Pakistan is struggling to find its equilibrium amid the challenges of terrorism and military-backed protests against the elected government. India and the US have simply not cracked the puzzle of how to weigh in with the constituency of progressiveness in Pakistan in a constructive way. Dealing with the rise and assertiveness of China in non-adversarial manner, which should bring India and the US to the same page. The Indian Ocean is an arena where both countries operate on a shared outlook. We have several sessions dealing with all these issues. Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy is that in spite of the fact that good India-US relations has bipartisan support in both countries, the progress is halting. Our last three prime ministers and America's three presidents, which all these three include the present ones, have all agreed on one thing, that India and US are natural strategic allies. But in democracies, domestic political compulsions or electoral cycles prevent full consummation of new partnerships. If you look at the current moment, we have an energetic new government in India, and the US has a president approaching the second half of his second term, with somewhat preoccupied with the Middle East. Neither of us, I believe, are ever going to be fully ready. It is pointless, therefore, to search for the perfect timing. This moment is as good as any other as you would get. I leave you with that hopeful thought, and thank you all for coming. And as you say in this country, have a good one. Thank you.